To the surprise of absolutely nobody, the first half of Stranger Things Season 5 throws up more questions than answers. So here are the mysteries we need solved before the credits roll on the series finale. The Upside Down has been a critical part of Stranger Things ever since the earliest moments of the very first episode. We've learned a lot about it over the years, that it contains a parallel version of the town of Hawkins, that it's home to Vecna and all kinds of horrific monsters, that it desperately needs a mold guy to come and look at all those spores, etc., etc., etc. Here's the thing though, we still don't know what it actually is. The closest thing we've ever come to an answer lies in the backstory of Henry Creel. The stage play Stranger Things: The First Shadow tells us that a young Henry accidentally utilized secret government technology to visit the so-called Dimension X back in the early 1950s. This appears to be where he got his psychokinetic powers, having encountered the entity that would later take shape as the Mind Flayer. Henry would return to Dimension X years later when Eleven banishes him using her own powers, turning him into the monster known as Vecna.
I saw so many things.
To this day, we haven't had any specific confirmation that Dimension X is the Upside Down, and they certainly don't look the same in the show's flashback sequences. Even if we assume they are, and that Vecna somehow transformed Dimension X into the Upside Down, a number of questions remain. Where did Dimension X come from in the first place? Why did the Mind Flayer take such an interest in Henry? Are there other parallel realities out there? And what is it about the Upside Down that gives certain kids powers? Halfway through Season 5, we know everything there is to know about Vecna himself, yet precious little has been explained about the place that made him. Okay, so when we said we know everything there is to know about Vecna himself, we lied. To be fair, the show has taken great pains to explore his childhood, his motivations, and his ultimate goal, even if that ultimate goal is a little simplistic.
I could restore balance to a broken world. A predator. But for good.
Even by the end of Sorcerer, however, we've yet to learn just how Vecna intends to achieve it. Obviously, the kids and teenagers of Hawkins are critical to his plan, as Season 5 tells us that he needs to gather 12 of the town's weakest, most easily manipulated children to him. It's also possible that this has something to do with the fact that, as we learned in Season 4, killing children weakens the barrier between our world and the Upside Down. But there are a few missing pieces here. Why is he gathering these kids instead of outright killing him? What purpose do they serve? And why do they have to be kids in the first place? Oh, and how does all that mesh with this?
Some biomes, it turns out, simply do not belong in this world.
This line almost seems to suggest that there's another side to Vecna's scheming, an element of misguided mercy, perhaps. Could he really believe that he's helping to end the suffering of these children, as he suggested back at the start of Season 4? Or are these just the lies of a manipulative predator, one who's dead set on the extermination of mankind above all else? For now, nobody knows, but here's hoping we find out before too long. Time travel theories have been swirling around the Stranger Things fandom for many years. Much of this seems to draw on the heavy clock symbolism that seems to surround Henry Creel, as well as the fact that the Upside Down seems to be permanently stuck in 1983. The show has also thrown in a few cute Easter eggs here and there to keep fans guessing. The kids hide out in a screening of Back to the Future in Season 3, and Mr. Clark alludes to the possibility of time travel in Season 1.
You'd have to create a massive amount of energy, more than humans are currently capable of creating, mind you, to open up some kind of tear in time and space.
And Season 5 seems to be following in the same suit. Mr. Clark teaches a class about wormholes during one scene in the third episode, while the season makes a handful of references to the 1962 novel A Wrinkle in Time. Heck, at one point, Holly herself says this:
time travel.
All this begs the question, does time travel have a role to play in Season 5's second half, or do these hints add up to the mother of all red herrings? We can't say for sure. One thing that is certain, though, is that any kind of time travel-based resolution to the Stranger Things story will tear a rift in the show's fandom so vast that it'd give Vecna himself a run for his money. The Broadway stage show Stranger Things: The First Shadow reveals a few choice details about Hawkins and its inhabitants, mostly concerning Henry Creel's backstory. Arguably more interesting than that, however, is the fact that the show also involves a young Joyce and Hopper. Along with Bob Newby, Joyce and Hopper team up to investigate a series of animal killings in Hawkins, the work of Henry and the Mind Flayer. In the end, though, their work leads to Henry's father, Victor, taking the blame for the deaths of his wife and daughter. This backstory is briefly referenced in the 5th season of Stranger Things, when During a flashback sequence that takes place inside Henry's memories, we see a young Joyce attending Hawkins High School. Clearly, the Duffer Brothers were more than willing to pay homage to the spin-off show when writing season 5. But is there more to it than that? Could we see some kind of elaboration on the links between Hopper, Joyce, and Vecna later in the season? Might the events of the first shadow play some part in the events to come? Or do Hopper and Joyce's roles in the stage play amount to little more than the pointless shoehorning of familiar characters into an original story, with young Joyce's season 5 cameo acting as a polite nod to the spin-off and nothing more? Honestly, it could go either way. Max and Holly's adventure in Vecna's memories might well be the most curious aspect of Stranger Things Season 5. Obviously, Max is gonna be a pretty big deal when it comes to taking down Vecna once and for all, and this will no doubt rest on the fact that she spent so long trapped in this memoryscape. That's endgame stuff though, and we probably won't see her arc resolved until the end of the season's second half. For now, we can't help but wonder, what's up with her cave?
That's a very reasonable question.
After Max lures Holly away from Henry Creel's house, she takes her to a cave located deep in the woods, the same woods that Henry forbade Holly from entering. There, Max explains that for some reason or another, Vecna is terrified of entering it.
And here, I'm safe.
Weird, right? Unlike many of these questions, however, we think we can venture a guess on this one. Stranger Things: The First Shadow explains that Henry first traveled to Dimension X after finding some hidden military tech while exploring a cave system in Nevada. This was the moment his whole life changed, when the young boy began his transformation into a monster. What's the betting that Max has found her hiding place in Henry's memory of that same cave? The final episode of Season 5, Volume 1 ends with the reveal that Will Byers has developed powers of his own. After Vecna leaves the battle at the Hawkins military base, Will uses these powers to control and then destroy the Demogorgons that are attacking his friends. So, questions. First off, how did Will actually get these powers? It stands to reason that it's got something to do with his kidnapping back in Season 1, as well as the connection to the Upside Down that he's felt in the years since. But was there a specific moment or action that led him to develop these abilities? On the same note, could this mean that any child taken by Vecna might end up with similar powers? And in that case, will we see more children, such as Max or Holly, get their own nosebleeds before the series is up? It also feels like we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of Will's powers. Earlier in Sorcerer, Mike suggests that Will could use his newfound Demogorgon sight to control the monsters himself. For now, we've only seen him stop them in their tracks, but it's entirely possible that he could wrest full control of them away from Vecna and the Mind Flayer. Not only that, but Vecna and Eleven have each demonstrated a smorgasbord of powers in the show so far, including telepathy, psychic projection, regenerative healing, interdimensional travel, and more. Do Will's powers end at his ability to manipulate the creatures of the Upside Down? Or could we see him go full superhero before the story's over? Early on in Season 5, Hopper and Eleven discover a huge, fleshy wall inside the Upside Down. Aside from being, kinda gross, this wall is covered in sacks filled with the same substance that Vecna used on Will in the first episode's flashback sequence. As Dustin figures out, it also forms a complete circle, with Hawkins' lab located right at the center.
What are the chances that the center of this wall just so happens to be in the very place where all of this started?
Oh, and for some reason the military seems to know exactly what it is. So, what is it? Well, it's obviously related to Vecna in some way. Gross Will sacks notwithstanding, Elle theorizes that Vecna must have taken Holly through it when he abducted her, hence why she's unable to use her powers to bypass it. The wall also bears a striking resemblance to the mural Will paints in the 4th episode, which itself seems to be a kind of map or blueprint of Vecna's domain. It makes sense then that the wall forms the edge of Vecna's secret hideout inside the Upside Down. But even if that's true, a few questions still need answering. For example, how did he construct it, if indeed he was the one who did? Why does it dampen Elle's powers, and how can anyone get past it? And why does the military seem so blasé about it all? More questions, but we've got a feeling the next few episodes will answer at least a few of them. The return of Callie, also known as 8, is probably one of the less exciting reveals at the end of Season 5's first half, considering her arc with Elle back in Season 2 was one of the show's all-time low points. But it's happening, she's here, so let's just deal with it and move on. While it may not have thrilled many of the show's fans, there's bound to be a good reason why the Duffers brought Callie back to Stranger Things 8 years after she first appeared. It's made clear that the military was somehow utilizing her as kryptonite to fight Elle, and that's a startling revelation in itself. Somehow Dr. Brenner's test subjects objects can be used against each other, blocking their powers and swiftly incapacitating them. Putting aside what this means for Dr. K's plan, which is still largely a mystery, could this be a hint towards the final fight against Vecna? If 8 can be used against 11, then why can't 8 and 11 be used against 1? Of course, for all we know, this is Dr. K's plan, in which case we can safely bet that it won't work. Why? Because she's a baddie, of course. Nevertheless, it's intriguing that the show has decided to bring in one of Dr. Brenner's test subjects this late in the game. Now Will has developed abilities of his own. This means that we've got no fewer than 4 superpowered entities in play, and we could see more turn up in the latter half of the season. So while the show clearly has plenty of questions to answer in Volume 2 and the finale, one thing is a dead cert. Stranger Things is about to get real crazy real fast.